Tonight on The Flow, we're discussing the top stories that are creating the biggest buzz online right now. The road to the Oscars has begun with the 2012 Golden Globe nominations. Which artists put out the best albums of the year? The music magazines decide. And Time magazine names its person of the year. These are the stories that are being talked about the most. The Flow starts now. Hi everyone, I'm Tim Cash and welcome to The Flow. Joining me tonight here at the Pepsi Live Lounge is a New York-based Academy Award-nominated filmmaker who's in post-production on his next feature documentary, Comic-Con Episode 4 of Fans Hope. We see what you did there. The albino legend that is Morgan Spurlock's in the building. Next to him, showing a lot of leg and lace. She's a music journalist and the host of the #1 show on Fuse from the Top 20 Countdown. Give it up for Alison Hagendorf. And finally, a recording artist who recently released his debut mixtape, The Hybrid Season, and his new singles, Koi. You've just been named BET's Music Matters Artist, which is great until your fans find out that you were the only guy I know that actually enjoyed The Notebook. It's fame. I told you, this is the problem with talking before we go live.
That was a good movie. I'm standing by that. 100%.
I'm the only girl who's never seen it.
And I couldn't sit through it.
What a girl you are. All right, so listen, the top story tonight on The Flow is, of course, the Hollywood Foreign Press have spoken with today's announcement of the Golden Globe nominations. Leading the pack is a somewhat unusual choice. It's a silent film. It is called The Artist. Now, you guys at home, get involved in discussion. Hit us up at Pepsi The Flow. Morgan, silent movie, topping the list with so many, 6 nominations.
Yeah.
Does it work? Should it deserve this high accolade?
Just goes to show you how bad all these talking movies are that we're making. They're like, oh my God, a movie where they don't talk, we're geniuses. No, it's an amazing film. It's beautiful, but I think that yeah, it deserves it because it's so different. You know, the fact that what they made, it's an amazing film. But yeah, I think that we can always do better. There's so many derivative movies that are constantly being made that it takes a silent movie to remind us all that we can do better.
Right, but doesn't it, you know, the reason we don't make silent movies anymore is because we're smarter and we actually have microphones.
Are we?
Stuff.
That's the question. Are we? That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Are we really that much smarter?
It just, you know, it's a very bold statement for them to go and put a silent movie, I believe black and white as well, right?
Yeah.
Up at the top. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's very refreshing. It's black and white, it's silent, it's relatively unknown actors, but you know, the themes are still relatable. It's still a love story, it's still about rising and falling fame.
Wow, am I just uncultured because I would rather just poke at I have no intention of watching this movie whatsoever.
I've got so many friends of mine that would never watch a black and white film, and now finally maybe they will. It's going to take them watching a new black and white film to actually watch an old black and white film.
I keep thinking my TV was broken or something.
I think people make statements like, I don't see movies that are black and white, or I don't see movies with subtitles. It's always a red flag.
Right,
you know what I mean?
I don't go to the movies to read, all right?
But the worst thing about it is, how do you go and tell your friends or a girl or a guy, you know, whatever, yo, let's go watch a silent movie in black and white. It doesn't quite work for me.
I think in telling them, you have to make sure that they know it's nominated.
And pretend that you're really artsy and hip as
well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a good show-off kind of thing.
Another guy leading the way is probably the coolest man in Hollywood, George Clooney, nominated for both the Ides of March, which he directed and co-wrote and starred in, and also nominated for, of course, The Descendants. Is this a clear indicator, him leading the way, that he's on the road to winning an Oscar finally? He got a supporting actor Oscar for Syriana,
but
never
don't
leading man.
count. No, it's supporting. They give those to everybody.
Right? You want the real deal, the lead actor. Does this mean that in the Oscars he might take this home?
I think George Clooney is definitely is his due time for that. You know, he's been in the game for a long time, and you know the career he's laid forward it's only right that he gets this at the end of the day. I think it's a good look for him, and he's coming after a couple of heads. What's your guy, Ryan Gosling? He's coming after a couple of young guys. You know,
without mentioning his name on the show.
Hollywood is a waiting game. That's what it is, though. And then, like, the longer you're around, then suddenly that's we're gonna give him one now.
Because
Oscar.
here's the thing.
And look who's like already. It's Gosling, it's DiCaprio, still all young guys. Like Clooney, it is.
So they're not going to get it. It was like the same thing with Denzel Washington. Malcolm X, great movie. He should have got it. Didn't, so they waited till Hurricane came out. He got it then. Right. So you have to be a certain age to get it.
I think there has to be, unless like literally you've so blown out the competition. Like if there's a performance that so crushes everyone else. But I think that it literally becomes the more strong work you make, the more chance you'll have.
And Clooney has
Right.
come such a long way from Facts of Life.
Yes, he
I'm
has.
just saying,
And that
when he
Kate
was
Tomato
carrying
movie.
his toolbox
Yeah.
around,
Now,
fixing
I
the
wanna-
pipes.
Right, of course.
I want to
Mrs.
talk
Garrett.
to whichever one of you knows about direction, Alison. No,
Is
Morgan
it?
will actually go.
Let Allison, no, ask
He
Allison.
might know
Let Allison
something.
chime in.
Morgan, in the best director category, I was
Yeah.
surprised to see names not included. Steven Spielberg, not included. Clint Eastwood, not included. David Fincher for Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, not included.
Yeah.
Why are they not in the category for best director?
Well, this is still the Golden Globes. I think that when the Academy Awards come around, you will see some other names come in that probably aren't included here.
Names that I can't spell, like Michel Hazanavicius, director of The Artist.
Well,
That's pretty
that
good.
guy will most likely get nominated for Best Director for the Academy Award
Right.
as well. I mean, that's probably going to happen. But what happens is the Hollywood Foreign Press also loves to invite names that will help invite press.
Right.
Like you got to think. Just last year, they nominated The Tourist for like best musical or comedy
Right.
films.
Yeah.
Like, they want to make sure they get the stars in that room and that they get the stories.
I'd just like to add that Clint Eastwood does not deserve it for Best Director.
You didn't
So
like
I
J.
saw
Edgar, huh?
Edgar, and
Listen,
I thought
just-
that Leo was amazing.
Right.
Leo's performance was impeccable, but
But
the
it would be better
direction
if Ryan Gosling was in it.
or
You
directing.
Gosling groupie. Now, listen. On the grand scale of things, award season is is almost amongst us. The SAG Awards, the MTV Movie Awards, the Oscar. I just put them all in the same category. Where do the Golden Globes stand amongst all of these? Like, what's the character and personality of the Golden Globes in comparison to the rest?
Well, it's a great party. Like, the thing is, the Golden Globes is a great night where people come and they celebrate movies, and it's the only show that television and movie stars are in the same room.
Right.
So that's what makes it a really fun, exciting night. Ricky Gervais is hosting again, so I mean, it's gonna be a fun show. People will want to watch because they said they weren't gonna have him come back, and then when they made the deal with him, people were like, "Oh, this is wrong. He shouldn't be here." But it'll be a great show.
But he's back, and the thing is, I'm sure he's
and the
gonna
ratings
be
are better than ever.
better than ever. I'm sure he's going to be a little restrained, but still
I doubt
Ricky
it.
Gervais.
No, I think he'll go. I think he will go balls out and say whatever he wants. Yeah.
Can't say
I
balls
cannot
out. It's the gold. I
wait.
get it.
I'm
It's
so
Golden
excited.
Globes,
Yeah.
but you can't say balls out. Okay, well, the Golden Globes happening January 15th in Los Angeles. You'll be there, I'm sure.
I will not be. No.
Oh,
Listen, I'm a documentary
sorry.
filmmaker. Documentary filmmakers don't get invited to these things.
Unless you get nominated,
That's
you
right.
don't turn
Exactly.
up. Right. Now, it's that time of year when the music magazine giants put together their list for best albums of the year. We thought we'd take a look at two magazines doing the same thing but very different outcomes, Rolling Stone and Spin. First off, okay, looking up there, you've got, on top of Rolling Stone, it was actually Adele that took the top spot, and then on top of Spin, you've got F'd Up.
Yeah.
Which list do you agree with?
I'm gonna have to go with Rolling Stones. I think Adele has had a phenomenal year, and the music she puts out, I
Which
always
one's
say,
Adele? No, okay. I'm kidding, go ahead.
That's her on the right.
It's her on a bad day, but
Go
no,
on, you were saying.
I think with Adele, she really makes passionate music, emotional music. She's like your artist's favorite artist, and it's only right. The numbers she put up last year haven't been seen by some of our heavyweights in
No.
music. So, for her to get that top spot is definitely deserved.
What do you guys think? She had an album that pretty much saved an industry. It needed it too. So you've got someone topping the list that really sold big, is the people's favorite, and then you've got that dude who, no, I'm saying they're great in everything, but really best album of the year.
Well, you know
Yeah.
what though? That is very typical of
Spin.
Spin.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
and we love them
Yeah.
for
Very
that.
contrarian.
Yeah, and also when you think about Spin, I think it was founded in like '85, and in the '80s they were doing in-depth features of bands like the Ramones and Black Flag and punk bands, a lot of punk roots that
What,
Rolling
and
Stone
'cause
didn't
what,
acknowledge.
Rolling Stone never
No,
did?
no, not that they never did, but at that time they weren't really acknowledging them.
Yeah.
Spin was really diving into it, so it makes perfect sense that the #1 album is F'd Up, a very controversial punk band from Canada, and it's hot, it's sexy, it's
But come
provocative.
on, 1 second. You're talking about the
I don't.
best-
It's not my
I'm
number
just
one
saying,
album,
well, you just
but I
think
understand why they
now it
chose
is.
that.
I'm just saying,
Now it is, yeah,
you
now
can't
you're
go.
saying.
You
F'd
just
Up
went.
is my favorite
You shouldn't
band.
have spoken up.
Yeah.
You're comparing an album that, like we said, sold huge numbers
crazy.
around the world. She is a really talented artist. It can't be
right.
said.
Oh.
These guys. I mean, come on.
I'm gonna go one step further. I don't think Adele is on the Spin list.
No, she's
I think
not.
it's actually she's been
So
left
aren't
off.
they going too far in one direction? Like, aren't they
Like,
really just trying to prove
I think
a
they're
point?
being cute. I think they're
Yeah.
being cute.
Exactly. I
Adele is undeniably perhaps the biggest artist of the year.
Yeah,
I mean, the
you
numbers
gotta think,
alone.
you got to think a couple years ago, like LMFAO, people were like, these guys are going to be gone. These guys are going to be gone in a
Now
year.
look.
And now look.
You
And
can't
now,
get
so
rid of
now,
them.
so now the
Still
question is like,
shuffling.
where's
I'm
FF
still
going to be in a
shuffling.
couple years? I mean, it's
Right.
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Spin just did it. They probably saw Rolling Stones list and was like, let's piss a couple of people off.
And let's make a great cover.
Let's make a
Is that
great
the same
cover.
thing?
Yeah.
Wait, just to jump back to a story which we've never done before in the flow. When the Oscars see the Golden Globes nominations and who wins, do you think they change their list or who they're going to win because you don't want to copy?
Well, I think they're already done. Like the nominations are already
Right.
coming in. Like
Yeah.
I'm already like voting on the nominations right now
Right.
for like the documentary branch. So they're already going to be in. Doesn't matter.
All right. Well, look, we actually put a question out to all of our Twitter fans asking them their favorite albums of the year. A lot of fans tweeted in. Here's what they had to say. At Britney Spears Remixed, surprise, surprise, the album was Britney Spears' Femme Fatale.
Oh, I thought that was even an FM fan.
Absolutely. J. Rod MSG, this was to you, Ali Hagendorf. At Pepsi The Flow, my favorite album of 2011, Foo Fighters' Wasting Light.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the third one that we got was from @Evil Raccoon, someone who I never actually want to meet. If your Twitter name's @Evil Raccoon, went for Rise Against circa March 11th, 2011. I'll each one of you Morgan Spurlock.
Yeah.
What was your album of 2011?
Oh, I mean, I love Kanye and Jay-Z. Like
There you
that,
go.
So that was like that was my record
My
of the year.
guy.
That
Which was
my
actually #2 on Rolling Stone and #2 on Time magazines. But
Yeah.
we're talking about them in just a second. For you,
Oh man, it was the year of rock. There's a lot of big rock
you
records.
say effed up, I'm gonna F you up. Yeah.
It's definitely not effed up. I love the KG Elephant album, White Lies. I mean, it was Foo Fighters, Chili Peppers. It was the year of rock. Mastodon.
Fame, you can't promote your own, by the
No,
way.
I was 2 seconds. It was right there. I ain't gonna lie. No, I definitely gotta agree with Kanye West and Jay-Z. I think those two artists, them being at the height of their careers and coming together and putting together a dope project for music. It was just real good for the culture.
Yeah.
Right,
Something
and
Yeah.
I gotta go for the effed up. You guys are so corny and mainstream. Okay, let's talk about Time Magazine. Every year they put out their Person of the Year. Mark Zuckerberg took it last year. This year they went in a surprisingly different direction. They went as the Person of the Year as the protester. What did you think about the magazine's decision? Ali, you're shaking your head.
So frustrating.
You look Occupy Wall
So-
Street, let me just tell you.
I could talk about it all day, all
You better
day.
speak, girl. You
No,
better
it's just
speak
so
about it.
just so frustrating. I mean, in the past, Mark Zuckerberg, of course, Obama, of course. Then you have. I think the reason why it's so frustrating is because they were the most divisive group of people. There were so many countless causes. It wasn't like a unified force. I think that was so frustrating about it.
But I mean, I think you got to look at it's not just the United States; it's around the world. I mean, you got to look. This is a movement. Like the protesters around the world took down dictators and took down regimes
Yes.
that had been
Right,
propped
right,
up
right,
for
right.
decades, that had been oppressing people for decades. Like these are people who have changed the Arab Peninsula forever. So when you're thinking about them, you can't just think about people sleeping in tents in America. You got to
Right,
think about
right.
the rest of the world,
You know,
where it
I
actually
think
it's
for
made an
America-
impact.
For
Right.
America, though,
Yeah.
one thing I have to say is I think it became more of a fad, and people kind of lost the reason why they were doing it. Because
Yeah.
I know people that were there like, oh, there's no work today, I'm going to be here.
I get it. It was
Yeah.
protesting was a very prevalent, bold thing to do. Civil rights movement, anti-Vietnam. It
Yeah.
fell off. It then came back,
Yeah.
after Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire, the fruit vendor in Tunisia. This thing spread, this revolution spread like wildfire.
That's right.
What role do you think social media played in this kind of resurgence of revolutionary
It was
spirit?
huge. I mean, in Egypt, you got to think people were telling people where to go on
Right.
Facebook.
Right.
They were like through Facebook telling each other, "We're going to be here. Come here at this time." I mean, it literally drove the revolution in a lot of ways. When it was happening in Iran, same thing. Like it was the Twitter revolution. People were communicating with one another through Twitter.
Twitter's the new thing, man. It unifies everybody. I talk to people on the other side of the world just via Twitter. So you can, like you said, you could just always bring someone to a common place and kind of get everybody on the same idea.
And especially in a place like that where there is such a clampdown on the media and what's able to get out. Like this is a real international platform where they can put out news in real time.
It's literally like having a parallel news network controlled
Yeah.
Absolutely.
by the people.
by the people. It is the new AP.
Yes,
Right,
it
and
is the
and
new
it's
AP.
the rise of citizen journalism.
And the other great
Right.
thing to find, I was talking to people from Occupy Wall Street, and I said, you guys set up camp and do things. Where'd you get the idea from? They got it from reading about it in Greece, reading about it in Tunisia,
Right.
setting up
That's
that
right.
camp, having a fortress, and doing their thing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys, when you do create this kind of revolution and things like this, what was actually achieved, and what goes on from here as we come up to the end of the year?
I mean, I think that's the question. I think nobody really knows what's going to be next. When you look at here in the United States, I think the whole Occupy movement is still kind of TBD as what the outcome's going to be. Right now in Egypt, like they are
Yes.
they are removing a regime what's going to happen now in Syria, what's going to happen in other countries where it's just starting to happen, in Saudi Arabia, like what is going to be the next steps? And it's next year, 2012 is going to be the real deciding year of what happens in
Well,
Saudi
we
Arabia
all
and throughout.
look forward to 2012. Listen, all of you, thank you so much for being here on The Flow. That's it for The Flow, but the conversation still continues online right here and on Twitter @PepsiTheFlow. Make sure you tune in Monday at 10 p.m. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys then.